Martin, are you there?
Yes, Cosmos, I'm here. Thanks for having me on and appreciate the nice intro there.
No, Martin, thank you so much for taking the time to be on this podcast and share your wisdom and knowledge with us and the audience. And so, Martin, I know that you're an entrepreneur and you're into investing. Can you tell me, the audience, a little bit more about yourself, your background, and how you got started?
Sure. I think it kind of started for me in 2003 when I met my wife and we kind of were on the same page that we were working in corporate America and we knew that wasn't our path in life. And so we would have a lot of discussions around financial freedom. We picked up some of Robert Kiyosaki's books, Rich Dad, Poor Dad, Cash Flow Quadrant. And we went on this kind of educational journey, if you will, to find out how we needed to create a roadmap for ourselves to achieve financial freedom. And the first thing we learned is that we really needed cash flow before we could become a professional investor and create assets that produce predictable passive income. And so we launched a company in 2005 selling goods and services to the federal government. And so that was really kind of our start of our entrepreneurial journey was selling a product that we've never sold before to a client that we did not know anything about. So that was kind of like a 3 years of being lost in the woods trying to figure that maze out. But once we did, everything was kind of off and running.
Well, so Martin, it's interesting that you mentioned about the book, Robert Kiyosaki's books, and especially the book Cash Flow Quadrant, because like there's four quadrants over there. You have the employee and the self-employed, and you also have the entrepreneurs and investors. And basically, the gist of it is you can only become financially free with through entrepreneurship, starting a business, and doing investing. So my question to you would be like, for the sake of the audience, how would you go about from being employed, like the process and transition from being like doing a job to getting to that quadrant from your perspective?
I'd say it all starts with education and and time management. Really just setting a schedule for yourself to force your hand to educate yourself with the right network, with the right authors, with the right podcasts like yours that really just speak to the mindset. And it's interesting in Kiyosaki's book, one of his books, he talks about the be and before you do, and you need to focus on being that type of person that you want to become before you start doing a bunch of activities. And I think it really speaks to the spirit and the mindset of the individual. So it's kind of like, well, you want to lose weight, you got to go to the gym. Well, do you go to the gym once a month or once a year? No, you go on a regular schedule throughout the week. And oftentimes, it's not about just building a schedule and going, but it's about also cutting other things out of your life that are distractions or that are counterproductive to where it is you're going. And so that's very much the entrepreneurial journey begins there, in my opinion.
So, Martin, let's say like when the person decides to make the transition from the one quadrant, the employee quadrant, to this business quadrant, how would the person go about successfully running a business from your point of view? Like, what are the steps he needs to make sure that his business ends up succeeding beyond the 2 year or the 5 year mark that most people say is necessary for a successful business?
Sure. Once you start, surrounding yourself with various networks of other business owners, either joining the Chamber of Commerce or a BNI group or a Facebook group that deals with entrepreneurship, and then you just start immersing yourself. Then you start exploring ways. If you're an employee, you start exploring ways by which you can exhibit your entrepreneurial bone. And I believe that the term is side hustle. And start figuring out what you want to do from a side hustle perspective to get yourself off the ground. And really, you want to just begin with the end in mind. Stephen Covey talks about, and really just, if whatever it is you start in the form of a business, make sure it's going to be scalable, and you kind of have a vision in terms of how that will look in the end of it after it being scaled to the umpth degree, if you will.
So Martin, one of the things I like one of the big debates in the business and investing community is like should you follow one course until successful, like if you like when you're first starting out, or like whereas other people say that you should keep your eggs in multiple baskets to make sure like your money creates dividends. So from your perspective, with all your experience in investing and in business, so what how should a person go about like should they go about in the follow one course until successful, or should they put their eggs in multiple baskets?
Yeah, so I think in the beginning you want to just have a focus, and with that you're going to focus on your big business, growing that. That is your asset, and that's going to produce the goose eggs for you. And so you should be learning everything you can about that business, that product or service, even if you're kind of in the business. Like let's say you're an HVAC technician. Well, you want to learn, as much as you can, not just about the process of doing HVAC tech work, but you want to learn about the administrative side, the accounting side, regulatory side, the vendor side, and you just want to just kind of expand your base of knowledge, and then just start building a map for yourself, whether it's a business plan or just like kind of a goal and objective sheet, and just start doing side gigs in that area that you've chosen, and just stay focused on that until it just starts bearing fruit. And once it bears fruit, then you can expand out into other investment classes or asset types to produce additional income. I'm not gonna say Dan Clark.
No, I mean, you're pretty right, Martin. Like that's what a lot of people like in the beginning when they're starting the business, they have to follow one course until they're successful, and then with the money that they make, they should put it into different investment streams. Or at least that's what I was told by a lot of people. But Martin, so speaking of the next question, how would you go about creating consistent and predictable monthly passive income streams, like once you have the money to invest?
So once you have the money, it's really about having an investment thesis for yourself. So this is going to be really a roadmap for yourself in terms of how you're going to invest from a sourcing perspective, how you're going to source the assets, how you're going to perform due diligence on those assets, and then how you're going to manage those assets to peak performance. And so all this isn't just happenstance. It's not just, well, let me just, dabble and see where things go. It's full immersion into building this investment thesis for yourself. So it serves as a guide for you to just like bumper rails that when you go bowling, and when you're learning how to bowl, you put the bumper guards on. I think that's what they're called. I don't bowl, but it just keeps the bowling ball in the center where it needs to go, so it hits the pins as it needs to hit. And so unless you have that roadmap built out, then you're really just going to kind of be all over the place.
So Martin, if let's say somebody wants to get deeper into investments, how would they go about getting started in investment funds?
So I would have a risk mitigation plan. So you have your investment thesis that tells you, hey, this is my mission, this is my vision for how I want to invest. This is my commitment to deploy capital. This is my asset allocation. This is how I'm going to source. This is how I'm going to do due diligence with some checklist process. And this is how I'm going to manage an exit out of assets. Okay, so you have all that. And then next, you want to understand how to mitigate risk in terms of investing. So there you want to have learn about the different factors, like the operator risk factor. So there's various operators, there's various investment opportunities. How do you vet the leadership? How do you vet the the actual people that are going to be ensuring that they're providing a return for their opportunity. You also want a game plan for mitigating risk around the asset class itself. So if you're going to invest in office commercial real estate right now, well, there's a lot of vacancies in certain cities because of the all the remote work that's still going on, and people aren't fully back in the office. So you may want to kind of understand the macro picture of things, but also the micro picture in terms of what's going on in your marketplace. Like where I'm at in Sarasota, Florida, there's a shortage of office space because there was just not enough built over time. So they would prefer building, multi-million dollar condo units for residences over office buildings. So just by virtue of there being a shortage of office building space, we're doing okay in Sarasota. But take New York City, has 40 to 50% office vacancy in New York City right now. So you want to understand the asset class itself and risks around that. And then you want to look at rate of return risk. So in other words, given the amount of risk involved in the asset, is the return justified? And does that rate of return meet your aspirations in terms of investment goals you have set for yourself?
I see. Yeah, Martin. So there's a lot of people overthink when it comes to investments. Like, where do I invest? Is investing in precious metals a good idea, or investing in like real estate a good idea, or like should I invest in stocks? So where can like how should people go about getting should they go about getting a financial education when it comes to investing in the right asset classes? Because like a lot of people say invest in stocks or invest in real estate, but there's like different people. Some people even say invest in crypto. So what's your opinion on all this?
Yeah, so I would say you begin with a living financial statement. And I'd be happy to share a link to ours that I've been using personally. I created one about 15 years ago. I've been using every month. And so this is a living financial statement is something you update on a regular basis, whether monthly or weekly, in terms of your income, expenses, assets, and liabilities. And why that's significant is because it's not just like an historical data point. It's I actually um modified it where I break out active income and passive income. I look at expenses as it relates to acquiring assets that produce income, and then living expenses, which are just generic. I break out different asset classes based on ones that produce monthly passive income, and then ones that are more store value and appreciation. And in addition to that, I also have a whole host of goals. I have goals for each of those four sectors of the statements. And so if you do that, if you kind of take that realistic picture, self-diagnosis picture of where you're at today, then you can start looking at what type of assets you need to meet the goals you have in life. So let's say that you have an abundance of monthly passive income and you're beyond good. And so you might say, well, I have the income, so I'm satisfied there, but I really want more, I want to go with a doomsday scenario. If like, the world came down and I'm going to need gold coins and silver coins to survive, or Bitcoin, then you start saying, well, let me focus on this asset class. But if you're like most people, and most people don't have enough income, then your focus really needs to be first and foremost on learning about and acquiring assets that produce monthly passive income in a consistent and predictable manner.
So Martin, to follow up on this, what would be your advice, like a general advice on finding those monthly passive income streams?
So this goes back to education and self-awareness. So what, understanding, what areas of expertise you have, what passion areas you have. And then from there, start learning, start networking with other peers and learn about what they're doing to invest in assets that produce monthly passive income. And try to stay away from, so The thing you have to watch out the most for is white noise. So as soon as you start putting yourself out there and asking, friends and family and Facebook groups and, what you should do from an investment standpoint, well, what you're going to get is everyone's subjective views. But if you kind of narrow it down and say, look, I'm really passionate about baked goods, and I really need to grow passive income. So does anyone do any kind of investment in this sector that produces passive income for yourself? If so, let me know. And you'd be surprised what you can learn online through research, through various community groups, to learn about different niches that produce passive income.
Yeah, Martin, like this is like what you're saying is so important, and I want the audience to know that knowing how to invest and creating passive incomes are the key to attaining financial freedom. And when you're financially free, you can live out your sense of freedom. Uh, Martin, one question that I had was during the course of your career, what are some of the greatest lessons you learned during all your time being in real estate investing and being in investment funds and just doing business in general?
Yeah, so a few years ago, I wrote in one of the books, Cash Flow Dojo. I wrote about a 4C investment philosophy, and so I think that it took years and years before I actually created a concrete investment philosophy that's well documented. And so I kind of wish I would have done that sooner. I think the thing I would say is whatever you're going to do, you need to really map it out, but don't make it so rigid like you're going to just kind of hand tie yourself and not have flexibility. So you need to have the financial statement because you need to have awareness of where you are today. And then you need to have goals set up in that financial statement so that it's a roadmap. So you know how to drive to where you're getting. It's kind of like I'm in Sarasota and I want to visit you out in the Panhandle of Florida. Well, the goal is to get to the Panhandle. Where I'm at today is Sarasota, so I need to build that roadmap to get there. And then to safeguard against failure points of failure, and other ways to get tripped up, you need to have a risk mitigation plan to say, and you get that plan through continuous education in learning about different asset classes and opportunities.
No, I mean, I couldn't agree more regarding the risk mitigation plan. So a lot of times in business, there is a lot of risks, but there's a concept, a mindset concept where they talk about calculated risk, right? Because there's like two extremes. Like some people they have paralysis by overanalysis, and then they don't even do the business at all. And then some people like they basically are so bold, they take massive risks, and then they risk losing a lot most of the time. But the middle point is taking calculated risk and coming up with a risk mitigation strategy that you were talking about, you know?
Yeah, I think a lot of people, like if you said to yourself, if you're the average person and you said, well, I really need more passive income, and I so happen to have inherited money from Aunt Susie, and so I want to put it to work to grow income for myself because everything's so much more expensive out there. Well, what a lot of people do is they'll go to Google and they'll say, what is the highest yielding income fund I can invest in? And they start with the rate of return. And so what happens when you do that is you're not properly vetting the operator of that fund to know about their leadership, past performance, transparency, whether they have a criminal history. I mean, there's a whole host of things you haven't looked at or considered. And then you may not be paying enough attention to the asset class that they're invested in. So they could be great people and be intentioned, but they may not have a penny of their own money in the game. And they may be investing in assets that they think they know what they're doing, but they really don't have a grasp over. So the rate of return should be the last thing you look at after you fully vetted the asset and who's managing that asset.
So Martin, from like during your entire career, what were according to you like some of the great challenges that you had to face mindset wise while you were doing your business and while doing investment, and how did you go about overcoming them?
Yeah, so I think biggest challenges have been internally, like growing a team. So in the beginning, you're thinking, well, I'm going to hire the most skilled individuals, and I want to I want to build metrics to KPIs and et cetera, because I want to drive performance. I want to be a performance-driven organization, and so that's all well and fine, but you could get a lot of bad apples that come your way because you get what you focus on, whatever it is in life. And if you just focus on performance, then you're going to miss out on culture. You're going to miss out on like cohesion, energy, collaboration, and these other things that are significantly important. So now at this point, we actually hire to culture first. So we look if they're a cultural fit, and if they're a cultural fit, then we look at their technical skills. And if the technical skills aren't there fully, but they'd be a great culture fit and they show themselves to be hardworking and have integrity and some of the other core attributes, then we will train them up gladly. And so we do take that approach. And right now we don't, everyone in our team, we have high energy, everyone's positive. It's enjoyable to come into work because it just takes one person to be to really ruin the culture of the company.
No, I mean, yeah, it is true. Like you need to have like a balance of not just performance, but like culture as well, because culture determines a lot of factors. So, Martin, like in your perspective throughout your career, what do you think was some of your greatest accomplishments, and what was the mindset that led you to attain that accomplishment?
So I'd say greatest accomplishments are the discipline that's been formed. So discipline and balanced, being balanced. So in other words, staying disciplined on my financial plan and not the results, not the money part of it, but just the fact that I have the discipline. And also too is not letting the highs get too high or the lows getting too low. And I used to do that. That's kind of a young person's you know characteristic is you get excited when you get a big win and you get down when something really bad happens, like trying to make payroll and you don't have the money. And so you just kind of like just be even keel and balanced and live with more harmony. I'd say those are two accomplishments.
Man, Martin, like I know you're talking about balance, but like I get the sense that you're more of like a workaholic, like you put in the hard work and you're very successful. So, but I do know what you're saying, that balance is so important in life. And I feel like a lot of people that I met, a lot of entrepreneurs and business people that I met that are successful, they seem to like have like they put too much effort in one part of life, like in their work, and they don't create the balance in the other areas.
Yeah, that's where children help. I have four children, and so they help. I don't work nearly as many hours as I used to. So like I'll probably go home. Actually, we have an investor call tonight, but I'll go home usually about 4 o'clock. So I'm not I'm not doing what I used to do, and the children help balance that. Now, there are some entrepreneurs that still kind of plow through and they miss a lot of their children's childhood years, and so there's regret that some folks have with that. I don't want to have that for myself.
No, I mean, I think, yeah, like you're right. Balance is ultimately the most important thing. And as entrepreneurs and business people, we have to understand that, because we only have like, I think there's a saying that most people in their old age, like when they're about to die, the biggest regret is they didn't spend more time with their family and close friends.
Yeah, yeah, And I don't know that I spent a lot of time building friendships. I've been like, I've been 20 years of building a business. It's kind of like I got my family and then I have, people I work with and then associates and things like that. But I'm enjoying where I'm at in life. I think that we have a great team. I've learned to hire people to do things that I used to all do myself. So that's one thing you have to let go. A lot of entrepreneurs are controlling, and they want to do it all themselves because they'll do it to the best of its ability. But you have to let go and really train people up. You have to be a personal trainer of your team.
No, for sure, Martin. And Martin, on a different note, I wanted to ask about about like on a national scale, we have a national debt, right? And also, we've had inflation throughout 2022, and like the years before that. So, from a perspective of the average American, how would we uh, go about understanding inflation and debt, and what would be your perspective on what to do in this regard?
So, so many people get caught up in political and economic macro news, and it's good to have awareness around that. National debt, is the CPI a true measure of inflation? We all know it's not. Are the unemployment numbers real? Well, not really. And so you could sit there and kind of spin your wheels that way. But the only way out, if you're someone that's not where you need to be, in my opinion, the only way out is to do a living financial statement, build an investment thesis, work on creating and or acquiring assets that produce monthly passive income, and then use that income to buy good store value assets like Bitcoin and like gold and other precious metals.
So, Martin, from your perspective, how important is financial literacy when it comes to attaining financial freedom? Because, Exploring America's entire mode is about financial freedom, and American identity is about freedom. So, from your perspective, how important is education? Which area should people be educating themselves? Because, there's the traditional education where people go to college and all they do is rack up debt. So, from your perspective, what is the right form of education and literacy?
I think the right form is two part. So it is having awareness of where you are currently. So that's the financial statement. And you need to have that. Most people dread doing the financial statement. If you get a mortgage on a home, you have to do it. You may kick and drag because it's just a lot of work pulling all that data together. But having that awareness helps kind of plant where you are, and then you're able to visualize where you want to go. It's so critically important to developing the B part of the equation. And none of that is significant unless you take the action and really commit to that. That could be where your investment thesis comes into play, where you're committing to deploy a certain amount of capital or creating and deploying a certain amount of capital on a periodic basis into these asset classes, and you're holding your feet to the fire. I think that so many people need accountability partners as well. So you need people that are around you that are for you, that are with you on this journey in a positive way. I think so many people, it could really benefit from keeping bad people out of their lives or people that are negative, and really just kind of focusing on bringing in people that are for you, that are going to uplift you. And if you kind of do all that, then you're going to build the right community, you're going to build the right mindset, and then you're going to have plenty of action to deploy to make your dreams a reality.
Martin, I find it interesting that you talk about community, and I couldn't agree more. Like you're the people that you hang out with the most. So, from your perspective, on a national scale, do you think that the culture and community has to be more? People should hang out with people that are more entrepreneurial in general, because that's going to lead to more productivity, and we have to get on a more producing side rather than a consumer, rather than be consumers instead.
Yeah, I think in terms of the community, just like you're being very selective in who you're gonna surround yourself with, you should do the same with the communities you're gonna be a part of. So you can have communities in a certain industry sector, so that you're passionate about and you want to grow within. But there's also like faith-based business groups that are more about just more that will tie in a religion or tie in a train of thought along with entrepreneurship. So that might be kind of more of an angle. So you really just want to learn about all the different ways that you can participate, all the different groups and ways you can participate with those groups, and be highly selective on the ones you join. So then that way you know that they're the right ones and you're able to fully commit.
No, no, that's true, Martin. Like we have to be very selective about who we hang out with and what groups that we're hanging out because it'll feed into our minds, and then that's what ultimately creates our destiny, right? And so, Martin, I know on a different note, I know you wrote this book, The Cash Flow Dojo. Could you tell me and the audience a little bit more about it and the premise of how you started writing it?
Yeah, so Cashflow Dojo was my fifth book, and I wrote several before on mortgage note investing. So I've been a real estate investor since '09. I've been a mortgage note investor since 2013, and I've been investing in energy assets since for the past few years. And so Cashflow Dojo really came from a place that speaks to the individual that's looking to build multiple streams of income for themselves, and they're trying to determine how to get out of the starting gate, or they've already made strides and they're looking just to hone their skills. But it really just gives a lot of tricks of the trade on things people can do, on ways that people can earn passive income that they may not be thinking about. So it's not always a money thing. It's not always like I need 100,000 so that I can invest into this asset that's going to produce this return monthly. Sometimes it's something that you're going to create, like a training course on Udemy, or you're going to write a book that's going to sell on Amazon, or you're going to help train people with live courses, webinar. You're going to train people that want to learn, go back to HVAC technician work or plumbing or electrical or whatever, and you're a tech in by day, and then you're producing videos on how people that want to learn how to do it themselves, you're doing videos at night for them for income. And so there's just a whole host of ways that you can earn additional streams of income. And that's what the book is all about.
I mean, Martin, I would definitely recommend anybody listening to this to definitely take a look at this book because we definitely need to know everything we can about earning passive income streams, right? And Martin, can you tell me the audience a little bit more about your company, BQuest, and more of what it does?
Sure. So BQuest Funds, which you can check out at bqfunds.com. It's really a company it's set up as a legacy play for individuals looking to build multiple streams of income for themselves and pass it down generationally. So we launched in 2020 and started taking on investor dollars after having built a sizable portfolio of mortgages and real estate, for the prior 11 years. And so we wanted to go co-invest along with investors who wanted to go on a journey. The fund is set up for accredited investors. And we have two different options, two different fund options, but it pays anywhere between 8% and 11% annual preferred return. And it makes its payments on a monthly basis. So we have people that invest with their self-directed IRA, with non-qualified funds, which is just cash in the bank. But yeah, it's just someone who's looking for stable monthly income and growing that fruit tree for themselves, whether they need the money now or they're going to let it compound for later use.
So, Martin, how can my audience get to know more about you and your work and everything that you do and connect with you?
Yeah, you can look up my name on Amazon, check out the books. You can go to the website bqfunds.com and see if the income fund's right for you. But what I would suggest, just being true to kind of what our discussion is here today, the idea is really just make sure you have your game plan, your investment thesis, your which is your philosophy, your strategy on how you're going to invest and how where you're going to take the rocket ship, as long as your living financial statement, and then let those tools actually start to lead you where you need to go. And if we're one of the considerations that would kind of plug into what you need, then we're grateful for that. But if not, I hope that this that you make it wherever you need to make it in your journey.
Martin, I am certainly grateful that you've taken time to like share your wisdom and give us a glimpse of like the game plan and the strategies of how to be successful when it comes to investing in business. And because this is really important, right? Financial education, financial literacy is one of the main keys that will make the difference in especially in today's world. And I do hope that you'd come take the time to come back to this podcast at a later time.
Yes, thank you, Cosmos.
Yeah, and I want to conclude this episode by letting my fellow extraordinary Americans know that, hey, look, there's an extraordinary within each and every one of us. It's our duty to awaken it and unleash it. Until next time,